Okay, so when I heard that Yuichiro Umehara was going to be cast in FruBa as this Kureno dude, I wasn't sure what to expect, given that Umehara can kind of be whoever the heck he feels like. He's a talented seiyuu, but I gotta say, was not expecting this. But hey, before we get into the video proper, I do, as always, want to give a big thank you to those of you who shared last week's video over on Twitter. At AnimeFan3535, at Marquinty2, at Matt87Eagle, at DarkfirePlayer4, at Aisu Okami, at Stardust Boy, at Miss Sarah Catherine, at Janime, at Dude Melio, and at Honko Deluxe. Thank you all so much for sharing last week's FruBa video over on Twitter, everybody, and if you too would like to have your name shouted out in the next FruBa video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout out the first handful of you in next week's video. Now, with that said, like, comment, subscribe, ship. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this interesting little episode. I was not expecting just about everything top to bottom that we get in this episode. Everything was kind of a pleasant little surprise, and honestly, that's why I like FruBa. And let's go ahead and start the way we used to do things. We're gonna go from the top to the bottom, bottom to top I start, and we're gonna go ahead and begin with this man crushing on Uo hard. This dude bumps into Uotani at her job at the convenience store, and he's holding like a bag of chips in such a way that it looks like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or I guess in this case the Leaning Tower of Chipsa. I don't know what you would call that, but whatever it was unsafe, is what you would call it. Those poor chips, they could have all remained intact, but alas, Kureno, as we later find out his name is not the brightest. At the very, well, I should say that he's not the brightest. It's that from what I gather and what I'm getting from context clues, this boy don't leave the house much. Kind of like me. I like Kureno so far. There is something about him later that we'll get to that makes me a little bit like, uh-oh. But actually, there's two things about him that make me go, uh-oh. But we'll get there. But yeah, Kureno doesn't leave the house very much. She was surprised to find out that you could actually use like the little, what do you call the little baskets to carry around your items at a convenience store, and Uo is just flabbergasted by this. And she genuinely bursts out into laughter. And the reason why is because when she sees the way that this dude drops the chips, it flashes her back to when she first bumped into bumped into Toru, and Toru dropped all her books on the ground. They fall the exact same way. And so she's like, oh my god, I didn't know that there was other people like Toru out there. And she clarifies this later on, but it's interesting that she's like, you remind me of Toru. And later she establishes that it's not so much that this guy reminded her of Toru specifically, but just that he reminded her of that sort of clumsiness and that sort of like scatterbrainedness to Toru, which she did not take very well. Toru was like, wait, huh? What? But she's too sweet to really bring it up any further than that. But yeah, my girls, Hana and Uo, really just like flat out called out Toru's kind of scatterbrained attitude in this episode, and Toru probably went right over Toru's head. She's like, huh? What? Are we talking about me? But it was really sweet. And I gotta say, like, opening with Uo meeting Kureno for the first time, basically sets up the latter half of the episode really well. And on top of that too, it's a scene that's actually filling in gaps, because we knew about Kureno previously, because Uo straight up mentions like, hey, I met a guy who's a lot like you. So you're not the only one out there. And like all of us, at least us the anime onlys, were like, who? Huh? What now? And I remember like people in the chat last week and the week prior, I think. I don't remember if it was the week prior or last week, but people were like, oh boy, Kureno incoming. And so, and again, I reported in a podcast episode recently that Umehara would be taking the role of Kureno Sohma. So I knew he was a Sohma because unfortunately like that I knew. But even just based on the context clues that you get before he is revealed to be a Sohma, you kind of get the idea of who he is. So it's not a big spoiler, but I was, needless to say, really surprised by his character. He was not what I thought he was going to be. However, we can't go talking about this man the whole time. We also got to talk a little bit about other stuff that happened in the episode, namely the fact that it's summer break now for our characters. They actually get to spend, I don't know how long summer break is in Japan. In Canada, it's from July to August, so it's around about 2 months. And I remember when, many, many moons ago, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, when I was in high school and we got let out for summer break, that was like the greatest time ever. So I actually totally remember and relate to the excitement. Like, Uo straight up like starts battle cries like in the classroom. She's so hyped. And yeah, that's about right. Although Uo is way more responsible than I was. Uotani like rocking 2 jobs. Hana's already like trying to set up plans. Toru wanted to get a second job while still helping out the Sohmas at Shigure's estate. It's like these girls are 10 times more responsible than I ever was. I'm assuming the same goes for the rest of the Sohma crew, honestly. I imagine Yuki is probably just going to start tending to the garden way more than he usually does. And I bet Kyo's probably just going to amp up training. Don't know what Hatsuharu is going to do. I assume Haru's got lots of video games that need beaten. And Momiji, little shit, probably going to drag the others to more haunted houses because, yeah, that's what the Sohma crew gets up to this week. We basically have the episode split down the middle. We have a fun, goofy little adventure that Toru and the Sohma crew go on, and then we have Uotani's crazy little love story, a little puppy love story. And I do think it's puppy love, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. First, we got to talk about the haunted house. The haunted house. Momiji drags poor Toru to this haunted-ass house. It looks like it was in the mall. I've never been to a haunted house in a mall, but that sounds fun. But yeah, Momiji drags Toru to this haunted-ass house. And everybody's just like, Toru, you know you don't have to go. And she's like, no, it's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. I'm fine. Why? Are you guys scared? I'm not scared. Like, meanwhile, you could tell. And I'm pretty sure she says, like, yes, I'm terrified. But, like, the only way out is through. You gotta conquer your fears. Like, she straight up was just like, I believe in Utada Hikaru. Let me face my fears. And she goes in. And it goes about as well as you'd think. Toru is a sweet angel. And bless her heart, she tries her best to power through this. She gets through haunted houses the way friends of mine do, where they just try their best to be like, I'm just gonna be really stiff, and I'm just gonna try not to jump so that they won't get me. But here's a little free advice for you guys. If you go into a haunted house and you're stiff, you're the person they're going after, because like they want to get scares out of you. So if you're like Momiji, and you just sort of laugh at all the stuff in the haunted house. I will say that this is very clearly like they're props and not people. But if you're in a haunted house with like live actors, they're going after the people who look the most stiff. So don't do what Toru did, and especially don't close your eyes, because like not only is that another sign that you're the one they're gonna scare, but it's also a horrible idea because, as Toru demonstrates, you will bump into so much stuff in a haunted house. It's a bad time. Do what Momiji did. Momiji just laughs because it's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to have fun. But yeah, Momiji had the right idea. And I gotta say, my shipping heart skipped several beats when Toru stumbles to the ground, and at the same time, Yuki and Kyo both said, "Here, take my hand." Show, we have been through this. We have set up the ships, okay? Like, we have set up the ships. I don't know whether I blame Takuya for writing the ships so well that they still manage to get me feeling emotional even when I don't really ship it all that much, or if I blame Ibata for the direction of the scene where they just absolutely nailed the fact that both of them said it at the same time. The direction in the haunted houses is absolutely on point. Ibata really flexing the comedy muscles. And it's ironic since Ibata also directed Attack on Titan Junior High, which I did not find that funny. But FruBa, when it feels like, is really dang funny. And the haunted house scene is really funny because it's Takuya writing the original manga, which is then, series comped over, because it's the characters are so strong, you get that emotional, like, oh my god, they both said it at the same time, all the emotions. And then at the same time, Ibata's like, but I'm also gonna make the scene goofy as shit because it has to be. And it's such a good scene. I cracked up, and I was also like, like I was just freaking out. Because like I ship Kyo Toru so hard, but Yuki Toru still, I don't know why, still gets me sometimes. And I view I've said this in so many videos, but I view the Yuki Toru relationship as like two friends who care very deeply about each other. But sometimes it still gets me. And that whole like hold my hand scene, I knew it was coming, and even the props freaked out. But yeah, that scene is great. It's also great to see Momiji and Haru step up, because while those two start squabbling and Toru's still shaking on the ground because she's so freaked out, Momiji steps up and is like, hey, don't argue when there's a girl in distress, you jackasses. No. Bad Somas. Like, takes Toru away. Good boy, Momiji. Good lad. So proud of my goofy rabbit son in this week's episode. Also, Hatsuharu stepped up in a big way too, comforting Toru by saying like, hey, no, they're not scary. These props aren't scary. Just make up a story about them. And this man proceeds to make up a ridiculous story about how this one ghoul who's just like, ugh, and he keeps making that sound every so often. It's so goofy. But this one like ghoulish figure actually has like a really tragic backstory. And even after they get in trouble because Hatsuharu rips off another animatronic's head to be like, see, and now they will reconcile. Like, the manager of the haunted house is like, so I have to call your parents now to get them to pay for the animatronic that you broke. Thanks for that. But then like, Momiji and Toru explain the story, or Momiji and Toru explain the story that Haru told them, and the manager of the haunted house proceeds to be like, I haven't heard such a beautiful tale in ages, and Kyo's just like, idiots! This whole town is full of idiots! And I was like, damn, accurate, but also like, come on, man. It was such a good scene, the whole haunted house scene. Like, stupidly funny. I adored every second of it. And I'm gonna be real with you guys. You needed the laughs this week. You needed the laughs because, oh my stars. Oh my stars. This whole dynamic that Uo has with Kureno. Like, we see her working at the cafe, because again, Uotani has two jobs. Hardworking girl. And she sees Kureno. She's like, oh my god, that's the guy. So she chases after this man, and she catches up to him and like grabs the back of his shirt collar and is like, wait a second. And when she grabs the back of his shirt collar, I don't know if maybe I'm just remembering it wrong, but I'm pretty sure like she grabs his shirt hard enough that she like rips like a button off the shirt by accident. Because Uotani's strong as shit. Like, we all know, like, Uotani ain't no joke, you know? She's a Yankee girl, and she'll kick your ass if she feels like it. So, yeah, her grabbing his shirt had enough force that it, like, I'm pretty sure it ripped a button off the shirt, which is hilarious. I also find it interesting how interested she is in Kureno, because Kureno, like, their whole dynamic is very, I guess, not very gender normative. Which I like. I like that Uo's like the strong one between the two. At the very least, like, not only physically, but even seemingly emotionally. Even though she does have a blow-up moment later on. Like, she does blow up. She is still, you know, she's still like a teenage kid. Like, so she's allowed to be... She's a teenage girl. She's allowed to get emotional sometimes. But she seems to have it more together. Like, Kureno, is hiding behind a lonely smile. And when she pointed that out... Because I thought that... Like, when we see him smiling, I was always like, that, like you know where you just can tell, you're like, that person not, I don't know, like that person has like a sort of like Sherlock Holmes smile from BBC Sherlock, where Molly rightfully points out, I know what that is, looking sad when you think nobody can see you. That whole Molly to Sherlock line, I feel really suits Kureno. Just, I know what that means, looking sad when you think nobody can see you. That's the vibe he gives me, is like, it's a facade. And again, Uotani rightfully points it out. And she doesn't do it out of the blue. He actually is cool enough to like invite her to lunch when he notices that she's hungry. And she even says like, if I get hangry, I'm gonna knock somebody out. Like, so he's like, I'll buy you lunch. And she totally takes it. And they have this really like sweet little interaction over lunch that immediately turns into an argument. But the one thing that I gotta point out is when she asks Kureno's name, he just says Kureno. He doesn't say Soma. But you can kind of tell, the fact that he didn't say, I'm like, even if I didn't know who Kureno's, like that Kureno was a Soma because I, like, reported on it in a podcast, the fact that he didn't give a last name would have been a tip-off. But the other thing I gotta bring up, because, like, if I didn't, people in the comments would. So Kureno is 26, and Uotani is 17? That's a big that's a big age difference. And Uotani even points out, like, is this even legal? Like, as she's eating, she questions it herself. Like, is this legal? I'm torn, right? Because here's the thing. it is weird. There's no matter which way you slice it, anybody in their 20s, like dating anybody in high school is weird. It's super weird and uncomfortable. And I think we're all in agreement there. But these two have chemistry. Like, they really, really have chemistry. Not just in terms of, like, the characters themselves, but also the seiyus really work well off each other. Umehara and Tanizaki, who voices Uotani, these two have great chemistry. Like, I was so like, oh my god, like I really, really buy it. These two really work well together. But that's the thing is now I don't know. Wait a year. Wait a year, Uotani. Wait a year. It'll be at least slightly less awkward. Just wait a year. Yeah, I don't know. Just, it'll make me feel better. Just wait a year and then y'all can date. But yeah, like that age gap, I had to bring it up. If I didn't, somebody else would have. It is a thing. It is definitely a thing. But these two have chemistry, and also they're fictional people. They're not real. But dang it if the emotions in the scene weren't real. Like the argument that happens at the lunch table at lunch is so genuine. Like when she says like that smile is phony, and she's like, oh well, I'm sorry for being unnecessary, because he had said like the whole reason I was in that was in the store was like a kind of a twist of fate. It was like I was just there. I wasn't there for anything important. I wasn't there for anything necessary. And Uotani, you know, being all in her emotions right now, she's very clearly like head over heels for the guy, in the way that you get where like you see somebody and you're like, oh my god, like I am like so smitten with this person. I will say it is cute to me that part of the reason why she's so smitten with this dude is because he reminds her of Toru in a way. And I'm like, yeah, of course that'd be why. But it is cute. I think it's really cute. Like, I really think this puppy love shit is adorable. I'm a big sucker for, like, love at first sight type stories. I know people hate them, but, like, it just, because when people say, like, that never happens, it totally does. Like, when you just fall for somebody, you're like, oh my god, like, this person is great. And, like, that's the vibe. And so, of course, when she has this feeling like, oh my god, this guy's the best, when he rebukes her and says something offhanded that obviously hurts her feelings, Uotani, being, like, very much in tune with her emotions, lets that out. And she says, like, oh, well, I'm sorry for being unnecessary. And blah, blah, blah. And, like, you know what? Thanks for lunch. I'm out of here. And she leaves. And, you really feel, like, her anger in that scene. And it's so solid. And then that's immediately followed up by, of all, like, this I didn't expect. Kureno chasing after her, and then the pair, like, making up and talking again. Like, that really, really caught me off guard. And he almost goes in for a kiss, which, like, hey, yo. I was like, bro, you don't know her that well. Jesus. Like, to me, that was a little bit much. But the hand on the cheek, that got me. Like, that I was like, wow. Like, and I really felt, like, the emotions from the scene. I was like, wow, they really have a lot of chemistry. And again, yeah, it's a little bit weird. And that's the last time I'm going to mention it. But, like, yeah, it is a little bit weird. I acknowledge that it's weird. I also acknowledge that they're not real. And a year, if they just age every character up by a year, I'd be a little bit less freaked out by it. But, like, it is still, like, I don't know, they just have insane chemistry. And that whole scene, like, even when he says later on in the episode, when he says, like, I knew I couldn't, like, if I saw you again, and I think he says something about, like, if I could touch those lips, I, like he basically would, like, his life would be different. But Akito, of course, like, as soon as he was walking down the hall, I'm like, no, just be a Soma, just be a Soma. Don't be, like, hanging around with Akito. And yeah, of course. Akito! You know he just has his mitts on this guy. And Akito, man, like, Akito possessive. He's a bad person. He's abusive. So of course he's gonna get in the way of somebody's happiness. Because that's just who Akito is. Just in the way of Kureno and Uo's happiness. But you know what? In this one case, Akito, you can hang on to him for another year. But, like, just, of course. Of course, there's always a monkey wrench. It wouldn't be FruBa without like a horrible like monkey wrench that tears at my heart, and yet at the same time I'm like, damn it, but it hurts so good because the writing's so good. It's like, of course, that's why they wrote that song. You know that song like hurts so good? It's actually about Fruits Basket. I bet you didn't know that. Now you know a true fact. I'm lying to you. I lied to you. And I'm sorry. It's just that I'm in my emotions right now because, of course, it's Akito. It's always Akito. Oof. Akito's such a good villain. Because every time I see this guy, I want to punch him. Akito drives me insane. And it's just because the way that they've established Akito's presence in the show. Like the fact that Akito is always this just tornado, this typhoon of anger and resentment, and the shadow he casts over all the other Sohmas. He's like the Sauron of this show. Like his mere mention makes the characters tremble. Like that's just the power that Akito has over the Sohma estate. And man, like when I saw Akito, I was like, this gonna hurt. Like this whole storyline's gonna hurt. And he like when Kirino says, I'll probably never see her again, I was like, you better go find her again. I'm invested now, jerk. Like, I'm invested. Dang it, I have. Why can't I just get another episode right now? Why is it always gotta be like this? I'm ending the video here, I've been rambling. Okay, so yeah, video's wrapping up now. But as for the question of the day, since we talked a lot about romance in this week's episode, what's your favorite FruBa ship? I don't think I've asked that quite yet. So yeah, what's your favorite Fruits Basket ship? Let me know in the comments. And that's gonna do it for today's video, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, then by all means hitting that like button and leaving a comment down below is a great way to help out this channel as it pleases the almighty YouTube algorithm. So if you choose to do so, kudos to you. And if you're feeling extra supportive today, you can go ahead and check out all the links in the description. One goes to my Twitter, another one is to our Discord server, another one to our merch store if you feel like grabbing yourself a mug, and of course, our Patreon page. And speaking of the Patreon page, I do want to give a big thank you to those of you in the T Squadron who support this channel month to month. Let's go ahead and do the Earl Grey shoutouts. Izevi, Andrew W, Branson C, Bria Rose, Calvin A, Crowbar of Irony, Daniel G, Digger the Fox, Dominic G, Emily, Ionos, Urza, Ginkotaku, Godzilla Fan, No For Nothing, Maria T, Marshall B, Mater, Mirth Mouser, Cell, Shadow Creative, Stephen G, Sakochi, The Suavest Orange, Tristan G, and Veridon. Thanks so much for your continued support over on Patreon, everybody, and if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out the first link in the description to check out our Patreon page. That is a huge way to support the channel. And again, be sure to check out the other stuff in the Discord as well. Go join our Discord. It is now public. You can all join. Everybody can hop in the Discord. Follow me on Twitter if you want me to ramble at you even more. And until next time, you stay classy, AnyTube, and wash your dang hands.